As one Nebraska football player said this week, thank God fall camp is over. This is the Pick Six podcast. I'm Evan Bland with Tom Shatel, Sam McKewon. These guys are ready. You guys are ready for some football. It's here. It's game week. And talking season is almost over. Nebraska has a football game this weekend. They play UTEP at home, 2:30 Central, and I don't know. It feels like we've kind of come out the other side of the tunnel a little bit here. We're going to have some football. Do you guys feel like you've kind of analyzed every which way what this team can be this season?
I mean, actually, we haven't come out of the tunnel until they come out of the tunnel.
Ooh,
but, 2 by 2.
But
the tiny tunnel.
But the season isn't official until they go to the correct sideline. They come out of the tunnel. Okay, you go to the west. Just keep going straight, and just like they used to. They used to come out of the other tunnel and go to the east. Now they just go straight, go to the right sideline, and we're ready to go. Yes, we're all Evan. We're of course ready to go. There's a lot of excitement, and a lot of it has to do with there's a home game to start a season, the way there used to be. B, the quarterback. I mean, obviously the players that are coming back, the Ty Robinsons. There's a lot of things that were built. That can they build on them? This is people expecting to go to a bowl this time. But I think the quarterback is a big reason, and but it's cautious too. You have your people saying 8 or 9 wins, but there's cautious. There's still caution in the wind. But it's here. It's every Nebraska season starts with excitement because people love college football.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm looking forward to it being a home game. Looking forward to just that walk up to the stadium. Nobody's played a game yet. Nebraska's hasn't kicked off yet. It's just going to feel new and fun. And have we analyzed this team or overanalyzed this team? Yeah, we really have. I think we know this team, and I told you this I think a couple of months ago. We know this team better than we know any team in a long time because they have a lot of returning pieces.
Right.
We know a lot about Dylan Raiola that we probably didn't know about Adrian Martinez when he started. And this coach, Matt Rule, talks so much about what he thinks that there's no mystery about what he thinks. Like, there's just not – it's not like Scott Frost where you're like, what is he thinking? You know what Matt Rule's thinking. And so this is a team that I feel like we know really, really well.
Yeah, he's a really, really candid head coach and has laid it out for the good and the bad. We're going to get into some buy-sell today. We're going to talk season predictions, whether that's record or any other specifics that we want to throw out. But let's start, since this is the season opener, with some season opener memories. And I think it's kind of cool because among us, we all sort of grew up around Husker football in different age ranges. Tom, what do you think of when you think of some of your favorite Nebraska football openers?
Yeah, I'm going to write a column about this later today, and I brought my homework with me. People can see this. I've written out I started with 10. I'm going a little bit longer, but this is my 34th opener. Actually, I had 3 when I was in Kansas City in the 80s, so it's probably 36, 37 for me for Nebraska openers. A lot of them. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's a lot that stand out. But to me, the most important one since I've started going to the openers, which was in '82, was my first one here. They played Iowa and they beat them. 83 is still the most important one for me because Nebraska, before '83, was, I know obviously 70, 71, they were on top of the world. But Osborne, they came back to earth a little bit. They couldn't beat Oklahoma. He couldn't win the big one. They were kind of this team that was like a level, they weren't quite the dominant Nebraska, force. 83, when they went into the Meadowlands, New York City, and they kicked the hell out of defending national champion Penn State. and they were being hyped as this great team, and they exceeded the hype in the opener on in New York City. All the national media were up. They all covering the first kickoff classic. It was like a bowl game before a season, so everybody was there, and they became something different that night. So that to me is the most important opener. There have been many more on my sheet here. Some good, some bad. But I like that one. The 2018 one, that comes to my mind this week because, hopefully, I haven't seen the forecast, but hopefully there's going to be a game. And Dylan Raiola is going to get the opener that Adrian Martinez did not get.
Right.
Yeah.
He got thrown into the Colorado game without a game, and of course he's going to get hurt. Wasn't his fault, but I just think that the first game, get it, all the jitters and the things out of the way. I think I think about that a little bit this week.
It's one of the great what if games, right? Like if that Akron game had happened, how much better could Nebraska have been? How much more equipped maybe in that Colorado game, and they don't start 0-6 that year, and who knows how things could have gone. You got a couple, Sam?
I do. If we're talking about games that weren't at Nebraska, the Ireland one is the most memorable for me. But if we're talking about games that were at Nebraska, 2015 BYU, the Hail Mary, that's one. As a kid, I went to, I think it was the 95 season opener when Nebraska played, I think, a pretty good Utah team, and Nebraska really whipped them. And then I came as a college student the following year, and they played Nick Saban's Michigan State team and beat them like 48-7 or something. And Nebraska's offense did not play well. It was portentous because they didn't play well against Michigan State, but they still scored a bunch of points. Then they had a bye week, and then they went to Arizona State, and they didn't score at all. And it's the last time Nebraska's been shut out. Mm-hmm. So it was notable. I remember that one particularly. I remember the season opener in '98 when Frank Solich was the new head coach. Bobby Newcomb comes out. They throw the ball early. He gets hurt on the first drive. I don't think we'll ever quite know what Bobby Newcomb could have been if he didn't get hurt. Yeah. And he did. He got hurt on the first drive of that game. That was memorable to me. So those are the ones that I think I remember, the ones that were kind of when I was in college, and then that 2015 BYU one. And then, there's been a lot of blowouts along the way. I mean, one year they beat Florida Atlantic. I don't even know. What was it, 77-3? It was embarrassing. I can't remember the score of the game, but it was bad. Yeah, it was really bad. 2014, I think. So there's been some blowouts along the way that were humiliating. I think Nebraska would love to have such a blowout on Saturday, wouldn't they?
Of course.
And I remember the 2016 season opener because of the thing, and maybe Tom will write about this, because of the Sam Foltz formation. They got in that empty formation, and they took a delay game penalty.
I forgot about that one. Yeah. I'm going to rack it. That's why I brought
that. Yeah, that was memorable. It was emotional.
I penned just for that very reason.
But yeah, like there've been a lot of blowouts, and honestly, Evan, it'd be nice if this were a blowout for Nebraska, so that they don't have to. That it's not 7-6 at halftime, and they won 28-20. It would be good if Nebraska comes out hitting on at least some of the cylinders it wants to hit on offense.
That's what I was kind of struck by, and looking back too. It's like so many of those openers were so routine. They were lopsided games. They were at home against teams that were oftentimes overmatched, and then that changed with the Hail Mary in 2015, and then the last 4 years they're on the road. A couple that I think about when I was in college, the 05 game against Maine, the Bo Ruud game where he had the kind of the takeaway fumble, and then he had a pick six score as well, and that was one of those games that Nebraska won, and people were Bo Ruud game.
I remember 03.
Yeah,
it was Barrett Ruud.
Barrett Ruud was in 03. Yeah.
And I'll do another one. 86. I was actually supposed to go to Oklahoma and cover UCLA, Oklahoma. Oklahoma was defending national champions, but Nebraska got cited by the NCAA the week before the opener against Florida State at home. Bobby Bowden's coming to town for all this. illegal or inappropriate ticket sales by players. And, they're selling their tickets to students or whatever, making money off their tickets. So the NCAA came in, and it was a big deal where they're going to get suspended, where these guys are not going to be able to play the opener. So I got sent to Lincoln to do all that stuff. And I remember the night before the game, I went to a Journal Star party. And some of the fans that were at this party were wearing these little NCAA buttons, NCAA National Crooks Association. It was some kind of deal where the Nebraska fans were making fun of the NCAA, and then they beat Florida State the next time. I'm pretty sure they beat them.
They did.
But anyway, I just remember silly stuff like that. But what 99 Iowa, the Eric Crouch game.
Oh yeah,
Kirk Ferentz's debut.
The Eric Crouch run, and then after the game, Iowa didn't have a media room set up for Nebraska. They were just being worked on or under construction, so they had the Nebraska press conference on the field, and all these Huskers, they set up a little table.
Yep.
And all these Husker fans came out and were standing around asking questions. I just like, Coach Solich, what did you like? and they didn't bring Crouch out. We had to go to the bus to get him, and he talked, but it was a wild deal.
How about 2020? Remember going to Ohio State?
I didn't go to
in October.
I didn't go to the.
That was the first the first COVID game, and so I remember going into the Horseshoe, and it was totally quiet, and all you could hear was the kind of bing 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 of the cardboard cutouts waving in the wind, and that was all that was there. Usually you park a few blocks away, but there was spots you just pulled right up to the stadium and walked in. They had all kinds of security, taking your temperatures and everything. That was just a wild opener. And then the game pretty much went, after one Luke McCaffrey run, the way everybody thought it would, and Ohio State ran away with it. But just the sheer strangeness of that game.
Yeah,
I'll never forget that either.
About that.
Memorable, for sure. Yeah, Nebraska did not have a very consistent team that year. That team had a lot of talent. COVID threw them off. And when they went into the season, there were moments where Nebraska looked like a top 10 team, and then within the same game, they looked like the worst team in the Big Ten. It was so interesting to watch that season. That was a lost season for the Huskers. Probably the turning point in Scott Frost's tenure. If none of that happens, and it's just a normal season, and the COVID didn't touch it, I think it would have been different. But that team in particular was very inconsistent.
Hey, before we get into the buy and sell, I'm curious what you guys think. So the last 4 years, Nebraska's played on the road against a Big Ten team to start. Which of those components is more important, do you think, for Nebraska to have the other way this year? Do you think it's more important for them to get a home game to start, or do you think it's more important to get a non-conference game to work through some things before league play?
Both. I mean, I think home was probably is enough already of the road starts in the Big Ten. And look, Illinois in 2021 wasn't a world beater. They could have been beaten. Nebraska, caught the ball at the 1 yard line and stepped a foot in the end zone and on the punt and the fumbles and so they weren't ready to do that. But none of these. Minnesota last year wasn't. I mean, it's not good to always start on the road, but all these games were not. Northwestern and Ireland, they weren't very good. So they were that hard games. They're just you like to be on. You like to be at home, and that's why coaches and ADs, and a lot of times ADs used to be coaches, set up their schedules that way. They set up a runway. We're not going to play anybody. We're going to play. We're going to play one team. We're going to try to get it at the home, and try to get momentum going into the conference season. So, this is sort of an old-fashioned schedule that way. We've got a bunch of home games to open. They've earned it, and now they got to take advantage of it.
I would love to go back, and I've never done this, and just see what happens when the loser of a two-power conference game in week one, what happens to them as the season goes on, because my sense is that the season can go quite badly for those teams. and it just doesn't go well. It doesn't necessarily have anything to say about the winner, but I mean the loser. And I think it's tough. I've always preferred you get to mid-September, game 2 or 3, and that's when Michigan plays Florida State, or that's when Nebraska plays Colorado. Or in this case, I think Michigan plays Texas like next week. Man, that's going to be tough for Michigan. I like that more than I like that opening weekend game. Like USC may well beat LSU. I think they have a chance. But that's a very tough assignment for USC out of the box. Let's go play LSU in Las Vegas for money. Like that's all that is. That has nothing to do with anything. And then, like sneaky game, Penn State's going to West Virginia. That place is going to be a madhouse, and it's going to be at 11. It's going to be right away in the morning. That will not be an easy game for Penn State. And Penn State's putting some risk on the table, even playing that game, because they want to make the playoff. And if they lose to West Virginia, they're going to be exactly where Florida State is, on the outside looking in and have to earn their way back. So I think it's tough to play that power conference game right away. I would say the home thing matters and the power conference thing does too.
Well, that's what college football is all about, those games are. But you don't have to be on the road every year. I mean, once in a while. But, Nebraska used to do that. When your program's, when it's built and you're got people coming every year and you're going to be going to a bowl every year, you can do that. I mean, Nebraska used to play somebody like that all the time. The opener, for a while, it was like Florida State, and then it was. I remember one year they went to I don't know, the Kickoff Classic. I think 3 times, but anyway. For where Nebraska is right now, year 2 of a building project. It's not finished by a long shot. It's better than last year, but it's not there yet. This is the perfect schedule. And I say that not knowing how good Colorado is going to be. Colorado might be really good. A lot of people are writing them off, and they might be really good. So we'll see.
I just think it's the power of momentum. Like
Yes.
if you're a surprise team, like typically you win an early game maybe that people don't expect you to, and then you're 4-0, and then suddenly like you're playing better than the sum of your parts because you believe, and like there's proof of concept, and you move forward in that way. And like Nebraska it's been speed bump after speed bump these last 4 years. And I remember, the last, I think it was 21, like the phrase that players kept saying before the season was, man, we just need to get some wind in our sails. We just need to get some sort of forward inertia to get going. And they never could do it. And they were playing from behind from right away. And I think that's why there's so much value in this schedule is because it gives you that chance to believe. And I think that's where Nebraska can really thrive, is maybe not individually player by player against its opponent, but just collectively, if they get some positive results, the culture's in place for this thing to really move.
That's why I think the Ireland game hurt so much because it took the wind out of their sails, and then they have to come back, and you're already down 0-1, and there was a lot of pressure on the season to begin with, and the game where Frost got fired the next day, was it South Alabama, or who was it?
Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern. Maybe that doesn't happen if they win in Ireland. I mean, you just never know. But yeah, momentum is a. That's why people are. We have to make our season picks, but sometimes it's better to just sit back and watch. And a season can go any which way, depending on a lot of times the opener. And so, yeah, momentum. But what I like about opening at home is the defense has a chance to get momentum and an identity. They're going to be stronger than the offense starting out, or they should be. And, if they come out strong, that they're going to the crowd will, acknowledge it, and they'll create something there that they'll be able to carry on the next week and the next week. So, but yeah, you could go through all these openers, but yeah, last year starting 0-2. I mean, come on,
right? It kills
they
it.
had a hell of a year to go to the last game against Iowa with a chance to go to a bowl game going into the last quarter. Maybe the last drive. You still have a chance to go to a bowl game after starting 0-2 with the new coaching staff and basically no quarterback. So, and I love Harburg. He's a champ, but he did struggle at times. So, but yeah, I think turn 0-2 around to 2-0, and then we'll see where we are in 2 weeks.
Makes a difference. Sam, what did you make of what Rule said this week about letting Dylan Raiola go? Like, I think there was this kind of thought that because they're at home, they can ease into things, and he can kind of get his sea legs in college football. That's not the approach they're taking. What did you make of his comments that, like, they're going to run their offense and let him do his thing?
I think it's twofold. One, I think it's designed to instill confidence in Raiola that this isn't going to be a training wheels offense for him. And two, I think it's a message to the players around him that Nebraska's not going to hamstring itself because it has a true freshman, that it's going to run its offense, that the players who are around Raiola need to step up and make plays, and that this guy is going to be given an opportunity to do the things that they think he can do. They're going to let him let it rip. And the comment about I'd rather lose the first game than the last game, I understand what he meant by that. I thought that was an interesting moment when he mentioned that. I think the point is that Nebraska's not going to try to just win a game against UTEP. They're going to go run their offense. They're going to throw the football. As Tom has written, they're probably going to try to get the ball in a variety of guys' hands. They're going to try to open up the offense. And last year, it became very hamstrung to we're going to run zone read, we're going to run the option, we're going to hand it off, we're going to try some play action passes. But this looks like a service academy offense, basically. And that's not what Nebraska wants to run, because in order to get where Nebraska wants to go, they need to run an offense that attracts the kind of players that Georgia attracts. Now, I'm not saying Nebraska's going to have Georgia's recruits, but they need to run an offense that attracts 4- and 5-star athletes. And I think that's what he's saying. You're going to see an offense that people want to play in, not an offense that's designed to beat UTEP 24-10.
I think the Harburg thing is really interesting, and I'm not sure how much we'll see of it this week. I think that's something you want to hold back for
Colorado.
Sure.
Yes, because I think when he goes into the game as a quarterback, what are people going to do? If you're on defense, well, who's this guy? He's not number 15. We didn't scout him. We saw him last year, but what's he going to do? Well, he's probably going to run. He might run a little option. He might do a quarterback draw, especially down in the under the end zone. He's gonna probably run when he's in there as a quarterback, but he might line up wide. There's all kind of fun stuff that they can do, but all the fun stuff starts with execution, blocking, and throwing a pass from here to there, and then throwing another pass from here to there. Complete it. Don't throw it at the guy's feet. Don't throw it over his head. Throw it right to him and catch it. That's what Nebraska needs to do. This first game, basic football.
Yeah, that's a winning formula. Let's do some kind of rapid fire buy sell. So we have a few topics here. Do you buy that this is going to happen? Or are you selling this isn't going to happen?
These are ones I sent to you, but did you add your own?
We'll mix in a couple.
I like that.
All right.
Mix in a couple
Well,
of
you
silver-tongued salads.
guys are already into this. Yeah, I'm going into this cold.
Yeah, that's good.
I put them in the email.
All right. Do you guys buy or sell? And we talked about this a little bit a week or two ago. Do you guys buy or sell that Nebraska will have a winning record in one-score games?
One-score games? Ooh. I don't know about the kicker. I'll sell.
Tom or Sam?
I will sell. I think Nebraska's going to win more games by more than one score, but
Yeah.
I think when you get in the one-score games, the games that I put in my own mind, I think it's very possible they'll go 2-3. Yeah.
I'm selling it too. I think field position specialists are a question in that, and little stuff like that's going to add up.
Again, I think Nebraska's success will be predicated on winning games by 10 or more points, beating teams they should beat by more than one score.
I also think some of the bigger games, Ohio State, USC, Iowa, are going to be one-score games. They may not win.
Do you guys buy or sell that Nebraska has at least 3 NFL draft picks next year on this year's team.
3?
At least 3.
Buy. Yeah.
Easy?
Draft picks? Buy.
Hey, from what Nebraska's standards been in that way recently, that's a big jump.
3 draft picks.
At least 3?
At least 3.
Oh, yeah, I'm buying that.
I'll buy it. Ty, Nash,
Yeah.
one of the offensive linemen.
Okay. Tommy Hill, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say Tommy Hill.
There's 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
All right.
Buy
That's
it.
easy. I'm going to buy it too. But again, like I think that underscores the level of talent that they have that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
If Fedoni has a big year, maybe Fedoni.
Could be.
He has maybe like the biggest hands of any tight end in college football. If this guy can run, if he's like, if you say, oh man, that's the Thomas we saw in high school who didn't have the 2 knee injuries, that guy's going to play in the NFL a long time.
Do you guys buy or sell that Colorado will be the best night game crowd at Nebraska since 2014 Miami, or best home crowd at Nebraska since 2014 Miami?
Buy. Absolutely. I mean, there haven't been that many that were. I mean, I think it's going to be bloodthirsty. I mean, it's going to be like Miami, and going into that game, I don't think we knew it was going to be like that. I think we're kind of expecting it now. But the Miami thing just kind of happened organically, which was kind of cool. But the standard for me is still 92 Colorado Halloween. This might approach that. And different circumstances, but the combination of people are ready to win a big game. They're ready to win, and Dion, and last year, and yeah, buy.
Buy it. I put night crowd because in my experience, I thought the 2016 Oregon crowd was louder than 2014 Miami, so I put night, and I buy it. But those 2 crowds, the 2014 Miami and 2016 Oregon, are the 2 best crowds I've seen, in recent era Nebraska football.
I'm going to sell it because, well, first of all, we don't know that Colorado's going to win Thursday night, and maybe that won't have an impact.
I don't think that matters.
But I think of 21 Michigan at home. That was a great crowd.
It was.
I think of, even the 2018 Akron opener. It was only a kickoff, but that place was electric.
It was.
It was. The anticipation that night.
The loudest kickoff in Nebraska.
It was literally and metaphorically electric that night. It was unbelievable.
I think Miami still eclipsed all of them because of the people turned into werewolves that night. And I remember seeing some of my neighbors at I went back and these guys were still at the corner bar at like 1 a.m. and they couldn't sleep. They were so wired about the game. They were I'm sure they were wired on something else too. But I'll just never forget the reaction of people, and it's a very rare thing. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but I think we will.
Maybe this is a conversation for next week, but just like they're not going to be a ranked team when they come to Nebraska.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
They're back in the Big 12, I guess.
Miami when 14 wasn't. It was about Miami, and this will be about Colorado.
All right. Buy or sell, Nebraska will have at least 3 different starting running backs this season.
Buy.
Yeah, buy. It's 3. Oh, yeah.
Injuries or lack of emergence of a number 1 or what?
Both. Somewhere in there, somebody will get banged up. Yeah, I think it'll be 3.
And you know what else is? The offense won't allow it. The play calling won't allow it. They are not going to be a run dominant. Sometimes the running back needs to get momentum. What is that word again? Momentum. He needs carries. He needs, offensive line to block over and over and over. And eventually the dam bursts and you just keep running downhill. That's what Nebraska used to do because they had great running backs too. But yeah, I don't think they're going to run enough to get anybody that's going to stand out. So my question is, will they have a running back who can score inside the red zone? That's because this is not going to be a running offense. But can you run it in the red zone? can you score in that way? We'll see. But yeah, I think there'll be 3 probably.
I guess I'll buy it too, just because there's not been that clear number one, and they have 4 co-ones. So you would think over the course of the year, 3 different guys are going to get that first handoff, whatever that means. I guess we'll see. Buy or sell, Nebraska will achieve at least one of the thing that you wrote about, Sam, the 40 sacks, 20 takeaways. Buy or sell that they achieve at least one of those things defensively.
Buy. 20 takeaways. 40 sacks it's really hard to get. And last year they got like 8 or 9 against Colorado, and they still didn't get 40. So buy it, but the takeaways.
Why? Why do you think they can hit that mark?
I think the schedule will help them, and I think they'll probably be a little bit better at snagging them. I think you'll see Nebraska mix up their defenses a little bit and create a little bit of havoc that's just a little bit different. It's time. It's time for them to get 20 takeaways. It's not that hard to do. 50 or 60 teams do it every year. I think Nebraska's defense will do it.
I'm going to sell until I see it. I don't, I think it's they certainly have the kind of players to do that, but they haven't done it yet, and they haven't been that kind of defense. So I want to see it first.
I'll buy it for the reasons Sam said. It just the 20 takeaways, they were somewhat close last year, and they left a lot on the table in that regard. Buy or sell, Nebraska has a top 3 defense in the Big Ten this year. However you want to measure that. Points allowed, yards, top 3 defense in the Big Ten.
I'll buy it.
18-team Big Ten.
I'll buy it. I mean, they certainly have that kind of defense. They've had it last year. I don't see a lot of great offenses in the Big Ten either. So, I mean, Ohio State is, Will Howard's getting a lot of credit.
Yeah.
And he's, I mean.
He got run out of K-State.
I mean, yeah, he wouldn't have started the K-State. No. So, and that's fine. He may be a different guy surrounded by their talent. He might be a whole different kind of guy surrounded by Ohio State talent. But, yeah, I'll buy that.
I'm right on the line. That's why I put it at 3 instead of 5. Probably sell, and not because Nebraska's defense is going to be great. I just envision Ohio State, Iowa, and Oregon be a little better. Back to K-State for a second. Avery Johnson's being prepared. I mean, he's being compared basically to Johnny Manziel. Like this team is apparently a college football playoff team because of this guy. Like, how good is he?
Well, they have to win the Big 12.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, they're not going to be in that large, I don't think. Because they're not going to – I mean, unless this guy carries them to a 11-1 season.
I mean, the way he's being talked about, though, like it's – and they did run off Will Howard in order to play this guy. Like, he's the bee's knees. Oklahoma did the same thing. They ran off Dylan Gabriel, who's going to start. The starting quarterbacks at Ohio State and Oregon were basically pushed out of where they were at Oklahoma and Kansas State. It's unbelievable to me. I don't understand it.
I remember when the Ohio State quarterback room was so loaded that Joe Burrow had to leave.
That's right.
Now, we'll see.
Yeah, that's right. Buy or sell, Ohio State and Oregon play for the Big Ten championship.
I'll buy that. I mean, on paper, I don't think Michigan is going to be up there. I really don't. Iowa could be, but their quarterback deal has to get better, and I don't know that it's hard to know what that's like right now. But it didn't sound great, but it could get better. Yeah, who else? Wisconsin, Penn State. Yeah, I think they're going to lose to West Virginia. Not to give a preview of my pick, but yeah, I think it could be Penn State. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State. I think Ohio State, whether the quarterback play is, has everything else going. So yeah, I think it'll be a rematch, and the Big Ten. The Big Ten championship game will be interesting only because can Oregon win the Big Ten, but also who wants home field or who wants the first round bye. So I'd really like to see Ohio State host Alabama in the playoff. I'd love to see one of those SEC teams come up north, middle of December. Yes, I'm buying.
Buy it.
Buy it as well. Just for all the, I just don't know who else it would be at this point. Those teams are so far ahead, far and away ahead. Buy or sell. Dylan Raiola throws for at least 3,000 yards this year.
3,000. I'm gonna sell. I want to see it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm looking at this whole season. He's capable of doing it, right? And he's got receivers, right?
He does.
And he's going to get chances to throw. They're going to throw it. But 3,000, I want to see it.
I'll sell. Yep, I'll sell it. Not because I think he's going to have a rough season. I think Nebraska's going to average around 380, 390, 400 yards a game. I think he'll come really close. I think they're going to make a bowl game. I've said that. And so it could be 28, 2,900, somewhere in there. And it'll be a perfectly good season. Yeah.
I'm going to buy it just barely.
Oh!
But I'm going to buy it not because I think he's going to throw the deep ball every other series, but because I think he's got the guys to give him some yak, those yards after catch. I think a lot of short to intermediate passes. If Nebraska's truly got some more explosive playmakers, as it seems like they do, especially at the receiver position, I think he can be helped out immensely with what those guys do in space. Last one, I'm going to modify what you asked, Sam.
Modify it.
Buy or sell the current Nebraska coaching staff of the assistants, that there are multiple head coaches, future head coaches on that staff in the next 5 years.
The next 5?
Because I think everyone assumes Tony White
Right.
in a year or two. Say the next 5 years. Do you guys see anyone else on that staff being a head coach?
No. 5 years? Next 5 years?
Next 5 years.
Okay. That means that they won big in the next 5 years. Because to get a head coaching job, you're going to have to be part of a staff or a team that won big, I believe. I'm trying to think who else. John Butler, is he going to be a head coach? I don't think he's a head coach. I think he's a guy that's going to be the next defensive coordinator in Nebraska. Satterfield? Is that what you're thinking about? I don't know. No, I don't see anybody.
Okay.
I'll sell it too. I think that of the coaches other than Tony White, who might be most likely, I think Rob Dvorak has that quality. I think it'll be more than 5 years.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Trent Bray. And I think Glenn Thomas. But Glenn Thomas would be more of a group of 5 FCS. I'm going to go back down and coach Texas State. I'm going to go do a level where I can love it and I can be a teacher and I can have fun. And I could see Glenn Thomas doing that.
McGuire is a guy that could be a head coach somewhere. I mean, the trend not only in the NFL but college is to go young. What these guys are getting, like Glenn Thomas, these guys are been around a while. John Butler's been around a while. These guys aren't going to get necessarily a lot of chances to be head coaches because people are looking younger. They think these guys are the young geniuses, especially on offense.
Yeah.
So McGuire's a guy who, once he graduates from high school, is going to. I'm just kidding. I can see him being a head coach in Texas, somewhere in Texas, which would be perfect. But they got to win big. They got to be part of like something special, and that could be coming.
I'll sell it too. I think I agree with everything you guys said. McGuire, longer term, could be. But I see I could see a lot of future coordinators on this staff. I could see Terrence Knighton being a defensive coordinator.
Really?
Sure. Longer term, I could see that.
I see him going to the NFL.
I could see
maybe he'd be a coordinator in the NFL. I see him being a defensive line coach in the NFL.
Okay. I could see Rob Dvorak being a defensive coordinator.
Yes.
I think John Butler probably will be a defensive coordinator again very soon. So I see upward movement on the staff, but maybe not head coach, just because of personality and skill sets and things like that.
Yeah, I think John Butler could be a coordinator now. If he wanted
absolutely,
that,
sure.
I think he wants to be a coordinator at a very specific level for specific teams. I think John Butler can be a coordinator next year if he wants to be a collegiate coordinator.
Sure. I love Tony White. He's really one of my favorites. I'm not so sure. People think, well, this is his last year. He's going to be you got to have the right job come open. And, is he considered a West Coast guy because he played there? Is he? Because I guess he could kind of go anywhere, but it had to be fit, and that would mean they'd have to win. He was considered for the UCLA job, but he didn't get it. That doesn't mean he wouldn't get it next time, but they just hired a guy, so that job's not going to be open probably for a while.
Right.
So he could get an opening. Syracuse or somebody, it has to be a job he wants. So I think he's in a great spot. He didn't have to leave, and we'll see what kind of offers he gets. But he might be here for a while. You never know.
I think that's a great point. Defensive head coaches have a harder time getting small group of 5 jobs. Not always. But a lot of times those group of 5 schools are looking for young offensive coordinators who can come in and score a bunch of points because they want to get fans to the games. And usually, not always, oftentimes guys that are, winning games 21-13 aren't necessarily getting all the fans out there. So Tony White's profile as a head coach probably trends toward a power conference better than it does in some ways some of the smaller schools, because the smaller schools are always looking for who can we hire, just like UTEP. UTEP hired a guy that's going to score points. They could have hired Tony White.
They could have.
And they hired a guy that's going to score points who scored points at Austin Peay. I don't think UTEP's going to play great defense on Saturday. I know that Matt Rule talked about them the way that Lou Holtz used to talk about every opponent he ever played. I don't think UTEP's defense is going to be great on Saturday. It shouldn't be. I do think UTEP's offense could be challenging to Nebraska's defense at times because of the way these guys call plays. UTEP could put 21 points on the board. I'd be surprised, but I think they could do it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I really think Garrett McGuire has the look and the feel, especially if his dad does well attack. Going forward, he's going to get a lot of looks eventually. But Nebraska receivers, the offense does well. But, it's going to be interesting to see. What we don't know is what's this season going to look like at the end. How's it going to feel? If they go to a bowl and say they get to 7 or 8 wins, it's going to be seen as a really big deal. People are going to look at, hey, Nebraska's that was quite a turnaround. Getting this group of guys who have never won to win, and so a lot of people are going to look different. If the shine of winning, it changes everything.
All right, let's get to the season predictions. We're going to end with picks, but first, if you have a record prediction, if you don't, sort of a season prediction, Tom, we can go that way. Sam, what's your prediction? Official season prediction?
I say 8-4. Somewhere in there's a loss that Nebraska maybe doesn't expect, perhaps to Rutgers, which would not be a bad loss in my opinion, because I think Rutgers is going to be a very fine team this season. And I think there's a win in there that maybe you don't predict off the cuff, that maybe being Wisconsin, maybe being at USC. We don't know what USC is going to be. We're going to learn something about USC this weekend. We'll learn even more in subsequent weeks. But 8-4 feels right to me with this schedule and with Nebraska's defense and with its offensive line. I like 8-4.
All right. You dragged me in. The farthest I can go over this line is 7-5, because they should have been at 7-5 last year, and they should be. It'll be a disappointment if they're not going to a bowl this year. In fact, it'll be a disappointment if they don't have a winning season. They had enough to do last year. They just didn't have the quarterback, and the Minnesota game. You got a quarterback, you win that game. a couple others I can think of. So yeah, they should be 7-5. I'll say that. They have enough to do that in the schedule. But again, other opponents are looking at Nebraska. Hey, that's a win for us. So people are looking at Nebraska as the easy game. They got to go out and prove it. They got to go out and do it. I hate to pick something I haven't seen, but I kind of saw it last year. I saw a team that should have been 7-5. So I'll pick 7-5, and that should get us to Phoenix.
I'm also saying 8-4. I think the defense is a fixed variable from last year to this year. I think it's going to be very similar. It's going to have a high floor. And as Matt Rule said, if Nebraska a year ago just took care of the football, they probably would have swung 3 games the other direction. So, I think that's going to happen this year. They had an upgrade at the skill spots. The schedule lines up. I agree with Sam. They'll probably drop one that you wouldn't predict, but they'll probably get one that you wouldn't think. Maybe this is the year they end that long losing streak against top 25 opponents. That goes way back to 2016, so that you could say they're due. So I'll go 8-4 there as well.
8-4. Ready for picks?
Let's do it.
All right. So last year, Tom won this thing pretty much going away, probably by about 11. I can't remember the exact figure, but Tom won. He got ahead early. He stayed ahead. I think you finished second by 1 or 2.
Sure.
I have a good running game. Get ahead and get the running game going.
You do. Next week's going to be interesting. That's going to be a swing week. There's some swing weeks in there. And, now that you have these other teams in the Big Ten, it's going to get interesting because you're going to see some teams playing some teams we haven't seen before. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The winner buys lunch. Tom won last year. He bought us lunch quite graciously a few months ago.
The Caddyshack.
At the Caddyshack. It was
which
great.
Is,
the pork tenderloin sandwich.
Our new favorite place. Yeah.
Just north of Miracle Hill.
Jay Johnson, owner, golfer.
And here we go. You ready? All right. First one is North Carolina at Minnesota, the traditional Minnesota Thursday night kickoff. Mac Brown against PJ Fleck.
I'm going Tar Heels.
UNC for me.
UNC for Evan. The Boat. Minnesota. North Dakota State at Colorado.
Colorado
in a close one.
I'll take CU. Miami at Florida. Boy, that's a good one.
Gator.
Let's start it off.
I'm going Gator. Chomp.
Jackson Reyes, our intern, will be happy. The University of Florida grad.
Go Miami.
Miami for Evan, and I will go Miami as well. South Dakota State at Oklahoma State. South Dakota State is the best team in FCS. They're the 2-time defending national champions. Oklahoma State's pretty good, though.
That would be such a Gundy thing to do, lose that opener. I'll go Pokes.
The new Big 12 does not want to see Oklahoma State lose that game. I'm going to go Oklahoma State.
I'm going to go Oklahoma State, too. But, man, that'd be cool if they pull that off. TCU Stanford. This is the last game I had. I'm sorry. I put TCU.
Frogs.
Yeah, Frogs.
Wyoming, Arizona State. It's a tight line. Arizona State's only a 5-point favorite. They're obviously in the Big 12.
Where's this one? Where's this game?
It's in Tempe.
Okay.
New coach at Wyoming, right?
Yes, it is. Guy was there last year, but yes, he got promoted.
But, yeah. I'll go Sun Devils.
Yeah. Location on that one. ASU.
Wyoming.
Ooh.
They're tricky. They win games like this. They've done that before. They beat Texas Tech last year, whatever. Notre Dame A&M. I'm taking Notre Dame. I'm not buying into A&M at all.
Not yet. I'm going to go Notre Dame as well.
Okay.
You don't believe in the AD?
He didn't hire this guy.
He'll be standing up there in his short sleeve shirt.
Howdy,
Blazers.
Howdy.
Howdy. Oh my God. I'm gonna go just to go against because you can't win if you pick like the other guys do.
Yep.
I'll go A&M.
All right. I don't know. I'm not buying it yet with them. Okay, Penn State at West Virginia. This is a heck of a game.
I've got Mountaineers. Adrian Dow, that's for you.
I get all of, like, the intangible stuff. I still think Penn State's the better team.
West Virginia is a pretty good team. It's not just that the intangible. I mean, West Virginia is an 8-14. They're not bad. But you're going Penn State?
Penn State.
You can go Penn State.
I'm going to go Penn State, too.
I got the Mountaineers. I'm against the grain again. That's good.
It's just it's going to be the most interesting game of the early ones before Nebraska plays at 2:30. Clemson, Georgia. I don't think this is very hard, honestly. It's in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia.
Yep.
Although, again, I think Clemson's pretty good. I just don't think they're going to beat Georgia.
Fun fact, Clemson now becomes the only Power 5 school to play away from home against a power opponent the last 5 years. It had been Clemson and Nebraska. Now it's just Clemson.
All neutral site games, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, almost all, I think, yeah. But not at home.
And they played Georgia Tech one year and hammered them. And yeah, all the rest. Last one, USC, LSU in Vegas. I'm going to be risky. Trojans.
That's going to be a fun game. LSU.
Okay.
LSU.
LSU it is. We've got some differences here. We've got some variety. I'll probably come out of week 1 5-5, and Evan will come out 7-3, and Tom will be 7-3 as well. That's the way it usually works out. So we'll see. All right, that's our picks for this week.
Yeah, that's our podcast for this week as well.
Are we picking Nebraska or no?
If we want to pick Nebraska, do we want to pick it to the line, which is 27 points?
Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's your show.
We can do a score. I was not going to do Nebraska this week because I think we'd all pick Nebraska to win. But if you want to do it by the line, we can.
I don't think they will cover. I think it'll be like a 24-point game.
So no cover for Evan. Tom, do you think they'll cover the 27?
Yeah, I'll say cover.
No. Yes. And I am a no. I'm kind of with Evan. I get the sense 41-17, 42-17 seems about right. I really don't. One thing I will say, Nebraska needs to move the ball on this defense. It's small. Please don't. I know they got a good defensive end and a pass rusher, but please don't tell me you can't run the ball on this group. You ought to be able to run the ball. And you ought to be able to throw the football. You should have 440 yards and 42 points.
I think there'll be a defensive touchdown. That's why I should cover.
Okay.
That would be good. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. This has got to be a game for the offense. If this is about, our defense did what they did, and fortunately we were able to score 18 points and win 18-9. Like, that's not. There was a game in Nebraska football history where they won 18-9. Do you know that one?
Tell me.
91 Arizona State.
That's
in Tempe.
Yeah.
It was Nebraska's first win over a ranked team in like 5 years.
We'll see if they can get one this year.
What was it?
Arizona State in 91. They beat them 18-9.
my
I don't know if you were at that game or not.
I was there with Lee Barfnecht and Doug Thomas.
There you go. It was in the middle of the night. It was really a late kickoff. It wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
Had to listen to Kent Pavelka on the radio. It was a wild game apparently. I don't know.
Well, gosh darn it, guys. We made it. We're going to have a game this week. We're going to be back next week to talk about actual football that occurred at Memorial Stadium and to talk a little bit about, probably a lot about, Colorado and what that could mean for Nebraska. For Tom and Sam, I'm Evan. Thanks for watching Pick 6 Podcast.